Okay, the third theme of anatomy and physiology is that, so theme 3, is that organ systems work together to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis. So, what is homeostasis? So, homeostasis, defined, is the body's ability to maintain a relatively stable internal environment. All right, so that sounds great and all, but what does that mean? So if we look at this sentence, we can pull out a couple of things to help us understand what exactly this homeostasis thing is. So, relatively stable, what does that mean exactly? So, if it's relatively stable, that means it is not the same all the time, okay? It's not exactly the same. There's a range of settings in the body, okay? So, for instance, body temperature. Body temperature. So we think of body temperature at being 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you all were to take your temperatures right now, would they all be 98.6 degrees? No. They vary. There's a range. There's a range of temperatures that would be considered normal. And what's normal for you is probably not going to be normal for me. Okay? So we're talking about, again, a range here. The body...
Just a moment.
The brain stores set points for things in the body. So there's a set point for your body temperature. There's a set point for your heart rate. There's a set point for your blood pressure. All of those things have some kind of set point within your body that your body tries to maintain at. Okay? So what about the internal environment? So what is that? What is the internal environment? Okay? So if we think about it, we're made up of the smallest living part of our bodies we just learned in the last video is going to be the cell. Okay, so we're made up of just a bunch of cells in our bodies. Okay, so cells have fluid inside of them. Okay, and we call that fluid, so if we put some fluid in here, that's called intracellular fluid. Or CF. So we have an intracellular fluid compartment. The intracellular fluid compartment is the fluids that are inside of cells. So they're all in here. We've got, the fluid in here. We call it cytosol, right, or cytoplasm, and the stuff that's in cells, the nucleus and all that. Organelles and things sort of float around in this cytoplasm stuff. So that's the intracellular fluid. Well, what about out here? So out here, outside of cells, there's also fluid. Okay, the cells themselves float in a bunch of fluid. All right, and this is called extracellular fluid. So this is the fluid that's outside of cells that the cells kind of floating around in. Okay. So this extracellular fluid, so we've got the fluid here that's just right outside of cells, okay? But there's also another type of extracellular fluid. All right, and this is a blood vessel. Doesn't really look like a blood vessel, but that's what it is. So you have to get used to that. Anyway, inside the blood vessel are also cells. They're weird looking cells because they don't have nuclei, but here's some red blood cells here. And they float around in a fluid, and that fluid is called plasma. And that plasma is part of the extracellular fluid. So the extracellular fluid is made up of plasma plus this fluid that's in between cells in our bodies. And that fluid does have a name, and that fluid is called interstitial fluid, which is this fluid here. So the extracellular fluid compartment, or ECF, is made up of plasma and interstitial fluid. And this concept is really, really important in anatomy and physiology, to know the difference between these two compartments, because if you want to assess somebody's health condition, if somebody is sick, basically some of their cells aren't working right, okay? But we can't really take fluid from those cells. I mean, we have billions of cells in our body, so we wouldn't really be able to get the fluid out of those cells. But this extracellular fluid, easy. We can take blood, so we can have plasma. We can pull out extracellular fluid fairly easily. Taking blood, taking cerebrospinal fluid, whatever, and we can monitor or see what components are in those fluids, because these cells here, these body cells, they're surrounded by a plasma membrane, and this plasma membrane is not a wall. We're not plants. This plasma membrane allows things to go out and allows things to go in. So we can get a pretty good idea about the health of cells from the components that are in extracellular fluid. So it's very important to understand those two different compartments, because we're going to be talking a lot about what's going on between those two and the things that are moving from cells into extracellular fluid and extracellular fluid into cells, into the intracellular fluid. So that is theme number 3. So the ability for the body to maintain a relatively stable internal environment, or maintaining homeostasis.